All right, Maddie, how's it going so far?
Good.
Good? You having fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of fun. So far, so good. It's always a fun trail. Where we left off in the last video was going up the waterfall / V-notch section of Carnage Canyon. And this obstacle is immediately after the V-notch and is a fun, flexy section. This section is a fun obstacle that's off to the left side of the trail, and what I try to do is drive up on the passenger side and work my way through it. My back passenger tire starts to get stuck underneath that passenger side rock, and it pulls me up into a wheel stand. I decide to back up and try and drive up on my passenger side on that rock and try it from a different approach. Things get a little tippy as it starts to bite. However, once I get that front passenger tire over that rock and drop down the other side, it levels out and drives through it. Now we're up to the exit of Carnage Canyon, and what this is a big rock wall that continues to change over time, and what's happening is every time people go up, they pull rocks down the hill. There's multiple routes up this section to make it as hard as you want to make it. The hardest line is the big cliff on the left. That one's pretty gnarly. Then there's a middle line, which is the main line, and then there's a right line, which is kind of a V-notch type wedge that goes straight up through that right side. With my drag axle car, I decide just to take the regular line. This is just the, I guess you could call it a Z-turn, because what you do is take a sharp left turn and work it through there, and then once you get up to where you can't go any farther, you then have to do a multi-point turn to turn around and go back the other way. Now this spot can be a little uncomfortable, and it's hard to tell in the video, but what happens is you put your front driver up over that rock and it leans you back down the hill. It feels a little weird because that first shot shows just how long that hill actually is. So that was the exit. Wasn't too bad. It's a little bit dug out, a little bit different than the last time I was here, but hey, not too bad at all. It's always a fun one. It's a big steep hill. Videos never do it justice. It's a little off camber. Things can feel a little weird, but it's a good one. Jonathan here is skipping the Z-turn and going more straight up the middle. This is a pretty cool line.
Matt Brissy starts working through this section as well. Now he's on DOT tires, 40-inch Nitto DOTs. These are non-sticky type tires. So he has to work it a little bit harder through this section, but he's never one to shy away from a challenge. As Matt gets up and over this spot, next thing I know, Zig's playing around on the big line, the biggest line there, which is the far left line. This thing's getting huge, it's getting more and more dug out, and as his front starts to get a little bit lighter, the unthinkable happens.
The rim broke.
Man, that was a hard hit. It actually broke the rim completely out.
Yeah, I was thinking. Well, I think what I'll do is I'll take that tire off, put the rear tire on the front, and then I'll just drive as far as I can. Strap a log to the axle or something to like drag it.
Fuck, too bad Corey's not here.
Yeah, we could try putting strapping some fucking logs. Oh, man. I'm gonna take a picture, send this to Paul.
What you got, B?
So what just happened? What did Uncle Zig do?
That thing's fucking us. You probably need that like down here.
Good driving?
Spin it like this one.
Bad driving?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Do you want to ride with him? No?
Oh, it's still hidden.
Are you ever gonna ride with Zig again?
Let's get this. Towards me.
I don't know.
Not good.
His Jeep at the time was looks a lot like mine.
What do you think?
I don't like it.
You don't like it? Well, Zig?
2 o'clock out in China, fire.
I got rods to go.
Yeah, well,
Probably just gonna shear off right about next hit. Which
Was a gauge.
Now you're gonna owe me a sock.
goddamn right.
Always happens right here, too.
What we decide to do is take one of the back rear rims and put it on the front. Our thinking behind that is that the front is heavier and we need the tire in the front of the vehicle, and what we're going to do is drag the back end up. What we're going to try and do is use a log to help drag the back of that up. The reason why a bunch of people have asked us, why didn't you have a spare tire? How can you go wheeling without a spare tire? Truth is, I don't know a single person with a rock buggy who carries a giant 40 or 42 inch spare on the back of their rock buggy. Now, some people do keep spares back at their trailer, and that's a good idea to keep a spare back at the trailer. And Zig keeps a spare back at the trailer almost every weekend I've gone with them, except for this one. Unfortunately, it happens.
So right now Zig has no back tire. We put the the back tire on the front, and we got a log strapped to the control arm, and he's winching up the exit of Carnage. So that's how we're trying to get him out.
We end up having to get creative with our winch situation. And so what we do is put that log under that back axle and start winching up and over the Z-turn section. This is what happens when you say you're going to go on a quick Sunday afternoon run. And basically, I had to work the next day. I had to be back in Montrose to go to work the next day, and I didn't have any leave because I just started a new job, so I had to be back there. Then this happened. So we had to get this thing out of there. We weren't going to leave it on the trail that night. Making some of these corners were pretty tricky, but it just took repositioning the winch multiple times over and over again. At this point, the log was no longer working, so we decided just to drag that back rotor on out of there. And a bunch of people are like, oh, that expensive rotor. I can't believe you drug that expensive rotor out of there. I don't know if people realize this, but a 14-bolt axle entirely is only like $150. One of those rotors at a junkyard isn't very much money, and just getting some studs to replace it isn't exactly a huge deal. Now, it's not the best thing, but you can get out of there like that. Now, in most cases, I would go down and get one of our spare truck tires or something like that. However, this was an odd lug bolt pattern. That is the reason that we didn't put another tire on there, because they used an odd lug bolt pattern. And they used that just because that's what they had laying around the race shop. So it's not ideal. But I tell you, we still got out of there. Everybody put their heads together. Everybody worked really hard getting up and out of there. And we appreciate everybody's help that helped us get out of there that day. Now, this clip right here I had put on Instagram, and I put a kind of a funny Budweiser commercial sound over it, and it ended up getting over 1.9 million views, so it pretty much went viral. And I think the reason why is so many people were wondering why we had a log under the axle when there's a spare tire up on top of the roof. And a lot of people didn't realize that that's not a spare, that's a broken rim. We would have forgot that we had a spare up on the roof. It's funny, but the situation worked out and we got up and out of there.